Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Live China Music Podcast. I'm your host, Will Griffith, joined by my fellow host.
That would be me, Elie Rosenberg.
Welcome to spring, Elie. How you doing down south?
Oh yeah, we're having beautiful days. I mean, Kunming is spring city, so it's beautiful all year long. But now we have flowers popping and birds are chirping. It's a good time.
Sounds nice. Yeah, I feel like we're just coming out of the rough winter here, and we're really starting to see the music scene open up. Lots of shows happening all of a sudden, lots of releases, and really, I just can't wait to talk about some of these new releases with you.
Last week we were all over the map of China, but this episode we're kind of doing a bit of ping pong between Shanghai and Beijing.
Yeah. We're gonna hit up some legacy acts, some acts that have been around for a while, as well as a few new ones, and but for the most part we're sticking to Beijing and Shanghai with a pit stop to Zhengzhou at the end of the episode.
We do have some exciting stuff, and should we just get right into it? Start with Nova Heart, a name that will be familiar to many if you followed the Chinese scene. And they've just released a new single. Let's hear it. This is Young and Cruel by Nova Heart.
That was Nova Heart with Young and Cruel. So Nova Heart is a band that I pretty much have grown up with from their birth in Beijing in 2011 up till now. So their span as a band has kind of tracked my whole, journey here in China thus far.
Oh yeah. I mean, the same, like they came out because originally Ellen was part of the Pet Conspiracy.
Yes, that was actually my first show in Beijing was seeing Helen Feng with Pet Conspiracy back in like 2010, and so it wasn't too long after that I think that Nova Heart became the main project for Helen. Yeah.
And because I feel the music's always had this like electro side with a lot of like bass heavy, but it's also, that's one characteristic that, has been on always throughout their music.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of this kind of, this disco punk, this kind of a indie sound from the early 2010s era. But like the thing about this band is like so much of it is how compelling Helen Feng is as a performer, just as a singer, as a presence on stage, and how she's been able to kind of to use that to her advantage in Nova Heart over the years. I mean, she's it is kind of like having like Nova Heart and having Helen Feng in your corner is kind of like a producer's like dream, to have someone that compelling, be the lead part of the band.
I mean, that's something that really differentiates artists, I think, on stage. Like a band is, if you have a monster kind of personality, a person that the moment they get on stage, they can captivate the audience, whether it's a 50 people venue or a festival crowd of 10,000, and not that many people like really capable of doing that. And I think that's one of the things with Nova Heart and Helen Fong.
Yeah, and I think, as with most smart artists, she has the other side too, where she's, you know, has been able to grapple and grasp this production side of things, and, you know, learn the ins and out of how that works, as evident like on this track, which is wholly produced by her. And I mean, let's jump into the track a little bit, Young and Cruel. I like how she kind of states like this is a fuck you track. This is kind of like I don't want to say like it's a one-off, like kind of like I know I can do this kind of single, you know, that everyone is doing around the world right now. But I do kind of like that mentality of like, yeah, you want a 2.5 minute like just earworm.
Yeah. She shared with us, you know, how it went for the process of producing this specific track, and part of it was an exercise in imitating some of the pop coming out with like 2.5 minute tracks, and asking herself if she could do what she says is like a kind of get a dirty pop track, you know, in just 2.5 minutes. So that was part of the drive starting off. Because what's interesting with Helen and Nova Heart, I think, is that she has the ability of being sarcastic about her own song and saying, yeah, I mean, this could very well be my midlife crisis track, we're aware that we're people of a certain generation, because I guess she's probably in her late 30s now, trying to imitate very young kind of music, but being aware of that. That's fun. Yeah, and I like the call out to Laurie Anderson very much, as you mentioned.
What is being used here from Laurie Anderson?
She says how Laurie Anderson's been inspiring her, you know, part of it being a complete artist, and Helen being interested in exploring the visual aspects. But in this track, she does, there's a small, what do you call it, Easter egg, I guess, from Oh Superman, which is probably the most famous track by Laurie Anderson.
Yeah, just, I mean, you know, it really does work. It's kind of a song that you can kind of just put on repeat ad nausea and just kind of have it come right back and back and back. But yeah, I hope that means like something news along the way. I feel like I've been waiting for like a new album from Nova Heart for it's been a while, the better part of a decade now. In that case, how about we like head to something a little bit more sprawling, a little bit more spacious, and let's check in with Poo Platter and their track Threesome.
All right. This was Threesome by Poo Platter.
Poo Platter, yeah, is a kind of bastardized phrase for basically a kind of a mixed tapas plate of Asian food, essentially.
Bao pan. in Chinese. And so this track and EP was released on February 9th. And this is another one from Kashmir Records, which we talked about last week with Ron Novel.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is a label based in Shanghai. Supposedly, according to Poo Platter, they, one of the best studios in the south of China. And so they speak very highly of it. We've seen, we're seeing more and more bands come through there. Seems like they have a good roster of, kind of R&B, live hip hop, kind of this funk driven kind of instrumentation. So very cool to see them popping up more and more. So yeah, Poo Platter is a band that seemingly formed in Brooklyn, Zhengzhou, along with some other, characters from the Chinese music scene. And they eventually relocated back to China, with many of the members now based in Shanghai. They excel at, doing this kind of a spiritual jazz. It's very funk-driven, very kind of cosmopolitan, contemporary jazz thing that's just very, I don't know, it's hypnotic, I would say.
Yeah, it's very playful. It's, I guess, it's improvisational as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, as with like many bands like this, a lot of it is born out of improvisation, and how much of that goes into recordings is, it's always unknown. But for the most part, their live performances utilize.
Would you say that this is kind of a quintessential Shanghai sound today? Because I'm thinking, okay, there's these guys which are doing this really well. There was last year we talked about the album from VW Sorcerer, Kunati, by Kunati.
I mean, Kunati was definitely. I mean, that was heavy. That was
it's very very
psychedelic realm. Where this kind of is more into the we can slip into a jazz club and get away with it kind of mentality. This is, I mean, to be honest, this falls closer in line to something that Sleeping Dogs used to excel at.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Sleeping Dogs, but those cats were based in Beijing, right?
They were based in Beijing, but I think their members get tossed around the saxophonist for Poo Platter, Tiga, TGA, however you want to say that. Everyone loves Tiga. He's kind of gets tossed around, plays with many of these bands. But for the most part, this is essentially a super group of, lots of people who have been in the scene for a long time.
I might have been off the mark with Kunati, but I was thinking about the psychedelic aspect of it. But for these guys, there's of course obviously so much jazz going on in there, and I feel there's not that many music scenes in China that can sustain these kind of musicians or this kind of musicianship. You need to have jazz gigs to be able to play jazz, and then have this kind of a project come out. So that's kind of where I was going. I mean,
it's interesting you say that, because I mean the jazz scene is kind of like this. I don't want to say a dying breed, but it is a scene that is always constantly in need of kind of a boosting up from people in various other scenes, whether that be R&B or hip hop or whatnot, to kind of bring in their own take or bring in their own jazz influence flavor into the scene, to kind of bring in the people, to bring in the masses. And I think Poo Platter does kind of, toe the line between something more avant-garde and something more jazz friendly, I guess, jazz club friendly. And because I think a lot of what they were doing is kind of, there's a lot of hip hop kind of aesthetics involved, I think, in Poo Platter. And besides, their their latest EP, which this track Threesome comes off of, Undercurrent, the name of that EP, which is mixed and mastered by Eric Lau, kind of a known hip-hop producer. And so I think that it has a kind of bubbly, kind of hip-hop jazz flavor to it at the end of the day.
Well, that was Poo Platter. And now let's go to The Inn by Wish You Could Swim. All right. This was The Inn by Wish You Could Swim. Yeah, okay, this is another band from your neck of the woods. These cats are in Shanghai as well, aren't they?
Yeah, this is a pretty relatively new band. So they kind of, they started in high school and fully formed in university, which is kind of a route that lots of bands go through here in Shanghai. And it's been kind of great to see this band out of Yangpu, whose members have gone to like places like Fudan University or Tongji University, kind of just grow over time and find their voice. And this has been one of those bands I kind of, have been following over the past couple of years. And their debut album, which just came out, entitled Wild Swim, it kind of really took me by surprise at just how fully fleshed out it was and just how alive it was.
I think the people they've been working with definitely have been a factor in this because they're working with this record label, Sango Records. Is that right?
Yeah, Sango Records.
Yeah, so they're based in Wuhan, but they're headed by the Subo from Chinese football. So that's some heavyweight right there. And and I think you were telling me it was also mixed by the guitarist from the Japanese band Toe.
Yeah, which is kind of like a huge catch. I mean, supposedly, he's a very affordable person to contact if you want your music mixed by him. But I think it just goes to show, like, the kind of sensibility that this band captures. It is kind of that they do kind of go for that more, I don't want to say jazz influence kind of math rock, but it has there's a very warm tone to the melodies that Wish You Could Swim put together.
Well, especially in this track, I think it comes across because they use a balafon throughout.
Yeah, how great does that sound?
I was just surprised when listening to the album, because the rest of the album is also interesting and well worth listening to, but this track specifically grabbed my attention, and I thought the balafon is very important. It gives that warmth, that playfulness, but without being a gimmick. It's not a gimmick.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, keyboard in general, is a hard instrument to integrate into many bands, I feel. And I feel like I've been...
What are you talking about?
Because I just think that keyboard sometimes just comes off as just too out of place, or it just doesn't sound integrated with the other dynamics of the band enough. It just... I don't know if it's something to do with just like finding the right piece of equipment or just how it's mixed in together, but I've been hearing lots of more bands successfully like kind of bring in these keyboards into their sound and do it in a way that isn't kind of that doesn't draw attention away from the rest of the band. And I really think the keyboard in this album, in this band, really kind of like ties it together in a really nice way.
Well, nice. Zhu Youhui, very interesting new band as well from Shanghai. And for our next track, we're still in Shanghai. Chen, you told me is in Beijing, right? We're going back and forth between Beijing and Shanghai this episode.
Yeah. We're in Shanghai, but I mean, as we'll learn, this is kind of a very much a globe-trotting kind of track, as we'll learn after we give it a listen.
This is Isekai Romance by Chuan, Soviet Taxi, and Diana Chen. This was 异世界的浪漫 Isekai Romance by Chuan, Soviet Taxi, and featuring as well Diana Chen. There's a lot to unravel in this track. I feel there's a lot of different things going on, isn't there?
Quite a bit. I mean, let's start with Chen Chen. Chen Chen is the lead vocalist of Peach Illusion, kind of a pretty well-known indie pop band in Shanghai who started out in Guangzhou before relocating to Shanghai. And so this is a part of her solo project. And I mean, the song kind of brings in, two other artists from elsewhere. For this track, she brings in Soviet Taxi from Beijing and Diana Chen from Taiwan. Collaborating, they're all collaborating on a beat that was made in New York. And so, so this track is very much like a gathering of worlds, a gathering of artists from different parts of China. And I just kind of, like you said, like there's a lot to unravel here. It feels, I don't want to say it feels fragmented, but I feel like there's different layers happening here, and it all kind of comes together in this very compelling, very, very kind of intoxicating way.
There's also, I want to say that a lot of this was surprising to me. The track just diving into breakcore at one point, and the ethereal or pop layer voice, like they're very, very light and kind of cute, girlsy kind of singing with this. It's a bit it feels like a postmodern fairy tale kind of thing.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Very much so. I mean, the way that she kind of paints it is, the romance of another world, or as she kind of viewed it as, is a romance from outer space, embracing, confining, and bidding farewell to an alien. But I just like this kind of blend. You have, she's singing in Cantonese and English, and then later on you have Diana Chan speaking Hokkien, and so it kind of, it really works how all these different influences and aesthetics come together here. As you say, it's very postmodern. This solo project is going to bear fruit in a future EP, I think later this year, with 5 other tracks. So look forward to that, and please check out Peach Illusion if you haven't already, because that's kind of that as far as indie pop goes, like they're one of the best in the biz.
Dope. And talking about indie music, the next track we have is from another band that's kind of, how do you call it? A staple of indie rock in China, I would say. Heatmark.
Yeah. Heatmark's been around for a while, for well over the decade now. They're kind of, actually, I think the first show I ever put together in Beijing, I had Heatmark on the bill.
Was it at school?
And it was at School Bar, indeed. And so, yeah, this band kind of like has been, a part of my life forever. And it's so great that they're still making music.
Yeah. So this is I Hate You, Miss You, Love You, Oh, by Heatmark. So this was I Hate You, Miss You, Love You, Oh by Heatmark. This is the first track off of their new album, 内想爆炸 Implosion, which came out on February 6th. Yeah, the story behind this album is pretty cool. A lot of stuff happened to make this album come out.
Yeah, it came in like right under the wire, right?
Yeah, in one of the tidbits we were told is that they actually received the completed masters for the album the day before the release. Just crazy.
I mean, they got it done. I mean, I think that's what I always appreciate about Heatmark is there's something very effortless and disarming about just how easy they make it all look. Everything's, the hooks on this are they're just so immediate. You immediately know what you're getting. It has this kind of pulpy attitude and this just kind of sun-bleached kind of mentality where you just kind of are stuck grooving to it. I mean, this is very much in the woozy garage punk era, I think, of like early 2000s or something. But it really does have so much more to it, and I just always appreciate how they always keep coming out with new music for us.
Yeah. So it's a duo. It's a duo between Wang Zhiwen and Liu Pianpian. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about the band in general, or?
No, I mean, they're a band that's always kind of been, I kind of very defiantly remember like when Vice was around hanging out in Beijing a lot. Like this was the band that they were propping up a lot, and it's always been this kind of this combination of Pianpian's kind of airless, kind of steely, cool voice, and Zhiwen's really like refined, like poppy riffs. And on this latest album, they really did. I think they're going for something a bit more down and dirty. They wanted to capture, more of a kind of live performance feel, and I do think that really comes through nicely. It's a nice blend of kind of 90s alt rock, psych pop, dance rock. I mean, it's very, one could say it's derivative, but I mean, when it's done this well, it's kind of hard to deny it.
Yeah. Have you seen the music video for this?
Yeah. I mean, they do like music videos all the time. And they're always very like just very simple, very DIY, very quirky. They're just kind of it kind of just adds to the like why I like this band so much, because they have a very gun ho quality about them where there's like, yeah, let's fucking just go out there and make a music video. Like we don't need to like get a whole production team or anything. Like let's just take the camera out there and like get it done.
Yeah, they were saying that this specific video was difficult to make and felt like kind of guerrilla production because they kept being interrupted by people in the parks and places they chose to film, and eventually
yeah. Eventually you just got to get them in the video at that point.
Yeah, so apparently like Wang Zhiwen would only appear in the night scenes because that's where they wouldn't be bothered quite so much.
Yeah, it's China, If you go to a park anytime, you're going to find people.
Yeah.
So power to them for actually finding those moments of, emptiness in those parks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, very nice to see that they, continue doing music that's so fun and very cool. And they have a tour. They have a tour coming up this month, I think, in March.
Yeah. I think they're kicking off their tour this week, perhaps even.
This week of the 11th of March. All right. Well, that pretty much does it for today. We have one more track, though. And we're not going to Jimmy Eat World, but we're going to Jimmy's Guess. This is Jimmy's Guess with 翠广情机. This was 翠广听机, which I really don't know how to translate actually. By by Jimmy's Guess, Jimmy 的猜想.
So yeah, Jimmy's Guess is a band that we've tapped into before, I believe. Actually, I think a year ago, pretty much, a year ago, when they released their debut.
It was in episode 3. You can go back and listen to episode 3. We're talking about, I remember that track, Wooding the Ya. Yeah, that was a very, very fun track. It feels like they've changed, they've evolved quite a lot in this year.
Well, I mean, they had a pretty big year. The band is from Zhengzhou and are very much kind of in cahoots with a lot of these kind of emo revival bands that are popping up in Middle China. And so as you say, like this new EP, which is entitled Underwater, a Swift Run in English, they really do kind of mess around with their sound a bit, with a lot more kind of this backing electronica and auto-tune, which is kind of a scarlet letter for a lot of bands, but when utilized correctly can kind of really make for something quite interesting. I mean, this is a band like who, in their previous songs, like they kind of had this Beach Fossils on Speed kind of vibe to them, very fast, very in your face kind of music. And so it was kind of, I don't want to say jarring, but it was kind of like, it threw me off kilter to kind of hear them in this mode, to hear them kind of slow it down and to kind of engage in this very, this kind of janky lo-fi aesthetic with this kind of just this melody just kind of looping back in and on itself.
Yeah, and I really, as people can probably tell by now, I always like when an artist is trying to challenge himself and go in different ways, and they're definitely trying different things here, which is, I think that's great. I wanted to also mention, something about the lyrics, which he the singer from the band was telling us that the lyrics record his imagination when he closes his eyes, and walking the streets at dawn, drunk, wandering like ghosts in a silent universe. Any object we see can become a landscape in our minds.
Damn. It's pretty deep.
I don't know that it's like necessarily like deep lyrics, but I feel like it's giving that.
Well, it's giving power to you're kind of like indulging in something that's swirling in your head. You're kind of building off something piece by piece, kind of not so much screaming in the void kind of thing, but just like you find yourself in these kind of loops, especially late at night or something, where it could just be madness, but if you engage with that madness for a while, you can, find something.
Yeah. Well, that's cool with music, you can interpret it, you can get people in different places. That's the cool part of art. The other thing I was going to mention is I really like the sample in the middle, which I don't know where it came from. I don't know if you know where it's from.
I actually, like, I had to look it up today, and so it is from like a kind of a rap group called Suicide Boys with dollar signs from a release a couple years ago, which at the end of their track, they're kind of like putting this out there. It's kind of like a fuck you, like, no, like, don't exploit us, like, after we're dead, like, please, like, just let it be. Don't beat a dead horse.
Yeah, and I think that's something that in the age of AI is very present in the minds of many artists. And so I thought it was interesting they included that in there. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like, a new release is in the pipeline. This EP that that this song was a part of was kind of just like a toss aside because they didn't really feel like these tracks fit the aesthetic that they've already, put forward. But I'll be really curious to see how they kind of retroactively fit these songs into like a live set in the future.
But they're not on the lineup for Chunyo.
They're not on the lineup for Chunyo. Nope. That might be a bit much, but it's a pretty good lineup.
Yes.
I'm excited for that.
One of the things Will and I have been plotting is a trip to Chengdu. And it so happens that next month, the music festival Chunyo happens. And it's one of the most exciting festivals in China, I would say. And they have a fantastic lineup. And we're going to go and we're going to try and record some stuff and share it with everyone here on the podcast.
It's going to be a good old time. Going to talk to some people. Going to hear some music, watch some bands. Come on. Nothing better than that.
That's it for today. We went through 6 different tracks. That's a lot. Remember to follow us. Click that like button or whatever it is you have on your app. Subscribe and all that.
Yeah. Just find an act you like and just do a deep dive. Check out their previous releases. Check out their previous songs and just find something to hold on to. Enjoy the music, guys.
We'll be back very soon with a new episode of the Live China Music Podcast. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Thank you again. Till next time.